Welcome to our Senior Flick segment of Creative Tales. Our guest today is Lenore Carter. She resides here at the Shepherd Village, and she is known as a very creative lady, so we are very excited to have her here with us today. Welcome, Lenore. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
All right. I was born on the island of Grenada in the Caribbean. It's a very small island. And when I was 7 years old, I went to a missionary school in a different part of the island, so I had to stay there until the weekends. And then I went to England to be trained as a nurse. And after that, I went back home for a while, and then I came to Canada.
Wow. And yeah, so a lot of people know you here as being very creative. So what got that started? How did you know that this was something that you were interested in?
Well, as a small child, I remember my mother scolding me and telling me that I should stop drawing and learn my ABC, because she was concerned of me being able to read. But instead I was drawing all the time. And then at age 7, when I went to that school, I also wanted to learn to knit. And at the time, people did crochet, and there was no knitting needles. So I kept asking until one of the smart kids, he got some sticks that is from the coconut palm leaf.
Wow.
And I was able to learn to knit with them.
That's so interesting to hear how you got started with knitting. And I see that you've brought us here the Nativities Art that you actually created for the Shepherd Village Christmas program.
Yes.
So walk us through how did you do this?
So I have here a book. It's very old. Even the back is off. But it showed me how to do the figures. And I took it and carefully read all the instructions. And then I have a lot of material and different things. So instead of going out to buy what they had suggested, I saw what I can get in my closet. And for instance, this is an African king, and the African people like bright colors. And so I put the bright colors on him. And also, you'll see the shepherd's nose. The Jewish people have a nose like that. And I went into detail to think of what they should really look like. And then when I started to work on them, I kept working until I was satisfied with the result. And you see here, there's the gifts for Jesus in the manger, and also I had to think of how the gold, frankincense, and myrrh would look, you know, and that is how I do it. And when I start a project, I work on it most of the time until I get it done. So it took me about 2 weeks to just do the figures. This fellow, I put him kneeling down because I wanted, it was too tall to have the two together, you know, so that they would be able to sit. So I had visualized that it would be on a table, and so I had to make this one smaller. He's kneeling. And this is how I do a project. I enjoy doing it, and I want to make it as perfect as I could. I have to get the right colors too for this is kind of a beige, and this is white, which I thought like the colors would be. And I have here a piece of styrofoam in here. This is the gold and the frankincense. And of course, it's in the Bible, so I look up to see exactly what it says so that I can make it as close as possible to what it should be.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear about how much time it took to put in as much detail as possible, even from the clothing that they're wearing to even these figures. You want to go more into how did you even think to create the shape of these figures here?
Yes, and I always go to the craft shops, and the eyes, it's special pens that are just for material. Yeah, the eyes. And then the felt, I decided was to make the mustache and the beards with. And they have a different thing here, but I thought, well, it would look better with the felt. And this is from the pens. And I am very happy to be in Canada because we get most of these things, while in the Caribbean you don't get as much to do craft with.
Yeah, so this is really incredible, this piece that you've brought in for us to see. But I know that this isn't the only art piece that you've actually created. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about other pieces that you've made?
Well, I will start with high school. When I was in high school, there was a project that you made trees. You drew them and painted them, and wrote about each tree, what it produced, the flower, the fruit. That is in Grenada. And you'd get a prize at the end of, whoever won the best would get a prize. And I won. Well, it was a box of sharp toffees, S-H-A-R-P-E. And I took my gift home, I hurried home, and when I got home, nobody was at home, so I started doing my homework. And I thought, oh, I'll just take one of the toffees and for a sample, and then I would leave the rest until the others come home to share. But an hour went by, and the box of chocolates, toffees was gone. And then when supper time came, I could hardly eat my supper because my tongue was so sore. And I was asked, why aren't you eating your supper? And I had to confess the sin I had done. I ate all and I didn't leave any for them.
That's a really funny story to share.
And then when I was in England as a student nurse, one Christmas, we were asked, I was on the male ward, and we were asked to decorate the ward. And we wondered what we could do. But there was somebody who had brought in a tin of quality street Macintosh chocolates. And it was on the desk. And then we decided, let us think what we should decorate the ward with. And one of the students said, why not the ladies? There were ladies on the box, and we said, going down Quality Street. So we said, okay. And we got cardboard, tissue paper, and old lace. And we made beautiful ladies with lacy bonnets, and they were walking down the street. We decorated them. And the theme was, Christmas time is a time of love and joy. And so the ladies had big gifts with that written on it, love and joy. And the men kept smiling and thinking how lovely it was that we decorated that for that Christmas, decorated the wards for that Christmas.
Yeah, that's
And I was just amazed at how I could cooperate my work into my hobbies, because every time I've been somewhere, I was able to do something like that to help. And then another time, this is quite a funny story. I was back in Grenada, and we have a museum, and the French have quite a history of being in Grenada before the English took over. And Napoleon Bonaparte is a famous, I don't know if you know, you learned that in school, but he's a famous Frenchman. And so they had a big statue of him in the museum, but the hurricane damaged it beyond repair. So a new one was needed. And so a lady who is Spanish, she does a lot of different artwork, and she had a boutique. And her daughter was in New York and told her she could send a head made for Napoleon with his hat, but we had to produce the body and the clothes. So I walked into this lady's boutique, and she said, she knew I could sew. She said, "Do you think you could do something?" And there was a tailor who was in my village, and he sewed for the policemen. And we got together, and he sewed the clothes, and I made the body of Napoleon. Now, I started with a pillowcase for his body, pantyhose for his legs and his arms, and then I got my father's shoes and his shirt. And the funny part of it was I had to put this headless man in my car next to me and drive several miles to get his head and put everything together. And because it's warm there, the windows of the car is open. And so I got shocked looks from people on the street seeing this Napoleon without a head traveling to St. George's. And to me, it was a real fun thing to do. We all did it. We didn't charge anything. We just thought it was lovely to do. And I really thank God for this simple gift he's given me to be able to be a help for so many people.
Yeah, it's very obvious that God has gifted you with such a unique talent. And it's amazing to get to hear about how the thought process that goes on behind it. And I'm very actually inspired to hear about how you just think of all of these creative ways to create the body and using different pieces that I feel like is not normal to just randomly think about it. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely a gift that you have. And would you actually mind to talk a little bit more about this creative journey that God has brought you on and how that's inspired you in your life?
Well, I think it's because my mother and father always instilled in me to do whatever I can, to learn. My grandmother, she was a great sewer. She sewed for all the family, her big family, and she was always so cheerful and happy, and she loved her garden. And I didn't have much to do with her after 7. I was 7 years old. She was quite elderly. But it's instilled in me, and she would always talk about God making things, and also to use what you had, the local stuff. And then when I went to the missionaries, they encouraged me to draw and paint, and I was at school. I I always was a top. But I think when I was 19 years old, I asked the Lord Jesus Christ to be my Savior, and I have him today like a friend. I ask him about everything, and if you go to my apartment, you might hear somebody talking, and I'm talking to myself, but I'm saying, Lord, what should I do? Should I do this? And so through the years, I've found many wonderful people that have helped me and encouraged me, and it's like part of me now that God is with me all the time, and I can ask him to help me.
Wow, that's so beautiful and nice to hear. And for any young people who might have creative interests, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, the same thing, that they could trust in the Lord, trust in Jesus, and also read their Bibles, see what is their passion, and ask him to guide and help them you must be happy with what you're doing. And so that is what, to me, it doesn't matter if I get praise for it or if I get paid for it. I just love doing it. So in life, we should be, the young person should think that way, trusting in Jesus and asking him to guide and develop whatever, because I believe everybody has a gift. Can't say that nobody hasn't got many. Some have more than others, but everybody has a gift. And it's just to develop it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom with us. And I thank you again for even bringing in this beautiful piece and sharing with us your stories and how you even got into being and exploring your creativity. I know that even for myself, that is very inspiring to hear, and to hear about how your faith journey, and just even asking God what you should do and then just doing it, no matter what praise or even money that you get from that. It was a pleasure getting to hear your story and to hear about your creative art that you've actually been doing even now. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm delighted to have met these lovely young people here.